Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So behind me I got a 2019 Honda CRV. This one has a CVT transmission and we are going to be doing the service on it today. Now before we go ahead and begin guys, if you guys haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below and definitely smash that like button because it helps the channel out. And with that said, let's go ahead and get started on today's repairs. Alright guys, so we are looking at the engine bay, and before we begin we need to find our fill plug. Now these typically have a plug on the transmission, and on ours it's actually going to be right below this area. I'm going to go ahead and put my light on there so when I put the camera we will be able to see exactly where it is. And let's get you guys zoomed in. So directly up here you guys will see we have a plug. There's some writing on it that you guys will not be able to see right now, but we're gonna grab this and we should be able to just get it off just like that. It's kind of a rubber plug style, so you just put your finger on there and pull straight up on it. And you guys can see here it has some writing saying transmission oil by the little icon, and it says HCF2. That's because this is a CVT transmission. Now just in case guys, you also have a little disclaimer up here that also says the same thing. You got to use the appropriate fluid on the vehicle. Now that we have our little cap off, we're going to go ahead and raise the vehicle and start draining the fluid. Alright guys, so we are underneath the car and we have to remove this shield before we get anywhere as far as servicing it. Now I will say Honda does this the stupidest way possible, and you know, this is my opinion guys, but I hate this idea. They give you this tin can little cover that basically doesn't do anything as far as protection if you were to hit anything. That's what this shield is supposed to be for. But on top of that, the implementation is very miserable because they give you these little flat screwdriver style slats that you have to unlock. Then you have a Phillips screw right here, followed by 10mm bolts up front. I don't know why they had to use 3 different combinations of tools. Just makes it all that much more difficult to take off. And these are already pretty annoying because sometimes they'll bend and they won't want to go back on, and they can be kind of sharp. If you get your hands in there, you'll feel how sharp this thing is. Honda's implementation of this is just the worst, and I hate it absolutely. But either way, what we're going to do is go ahead and remove this Phillips bolt in the back. Now sometimes this one doesn't come off. Sometimes it's very prone to seizing in there. This one's fairly new, so we are actually pretty fortunate when it comes to that. And then what we're gonna do is come in here and half turn these little screws. Now these do come off. Sometimes they'll have a tendency to stick in there. As you guys saw, I just dropped one. Do your best with them, but normally just pry on the cover and then have them fall into your hand. These are aluminum, they're lightweight. You basically won't even hear them drop. If they drop on the floor, they barely make no sound. So either way, let's get this one off here. And again guys, I really hate these. Honda, if you're watching this, this sucks. Do better. It's just simple as that. I don't know why they make it so annoying. It's not really that it's difficult, it's just mainly annoying. All the different combinations of tools that you gotta have. So now that we got our Phillips screw out and our flathead screws off, or retainers, time to remove the 10mm that are holding it in. Just like that. Now one of these is not coming off, so it looks like someone's been in here and they switched the bolts. Yep, so we got 2 different style bolts there. Someone has been here before and they made a oopsie. So either way, now that we got that off, what we're going to do is slide it back. You have these little square cutouts on here, you'll notice, and those will translate up here to these little hooks. So just take this and go ahead and slide it out of the way guys. Now that you have your cover off, we have access to what we need. So just to point out guys, we are on the front passenger side. We got our cover off. We're going to kind of zoom in here, and if you look towards the driver's side, we will have our transmission pan. Now here is our drain bolt. This will allow the fluid to come out of the transmission, and then right up here is our check bolt to check the level of it. Now there's 2 methods you can use to this. You can actually measure out how much fluid comes out and add the same amount back in. That's one method that I've employed in the past. And then this one, they give you the level check as well. So I don't know how I'm going to do this one yet. I'm probably going to measure to show you guys the measurement style, and then also use the actual check on there to make sure we got the appropriate level. Now, this particular car doesn't have high miles. It only has around 40,000 miles on it, and we are doing this as a maintenance. So technically, if I measured exactly what came out of there and put that exact amount in, I could get away with it. But for the purpose of the video, in case you guys have had a car that needs to be filled and then proper level check, we will be doing it both ways. I'll show you guys both methods. Alright guys, so I'm going to explain the process here really quickly just to give you guys a good idea. What I'm going to do first is we are going to go ahead and take off our 12mm check hole bolt. We're going to take that off and put it to the side. Once I do that, we're going to go ahead and take off our drain bolt. Now, for those of you at home that want to use a measuring technique, which, I still use even though I'm going to be using the check, just so I know how much to put in, even though I have a good amount, according to my system, it says it takes about 5 quarts. This one is a all-wheel drive model. I'm still going to measure it out just to be sure. Now, I have my container that has markings. Unfortunately for me, this one only goes up to 2 quarts at a time. So as this fills up to the 2 quart mark, I'm going to plug up my hole here with my finger, drain this out, and continue to fill it. That way I get a good idea of how many quarts I'm actually getting out of my transmission. If you're not going to be measuring it, just go ahead and drain it. It's completely fine. What I'm going to do now is take my 12mm with my ratchet, and we should break this bolt loose. It shouldn't be on there too tight. And don't be surprised if you get a little bit of oil coming out of it, not uncommon. So as you guys can see, we have a little bit of drippage. Now that's kind of what you should be seeing when the transmission is filled and full, just to be mindful. That is one area that it's going to drip from. If you want, you could wait it out and just let it drip and measure that too. However, it shouldn't be a whole lot coming out of there. Now that we have that off, what I'm going to do is go ahead and crack open our drain plug. Now this one is actually a little stubborn here. All right, there you go. And it takes a 3/8 drive to loosen it up, and it doesn't take too much. Now what I'm going to do is position my catch can here while I remove my drain plug. Now these things have a habit of shooting out really far, guys, so just like that, try not to make a mess. Make sure you can catch it. Honda has always had this thing about dripping very quickly and very far. So now my container has about 2 quarts in it. So that's our first 2 quarts measured out. And we are going to go ahead and continue to fill up our bucket. Now this process is a little bit of annoying, can be a little messy, but I just do this for general sake. I like to know exactly what I'm taking out because sometimes I find that the guides could be wrong. Now this one should have about, I want to say 4.5, 5 quarts according to what all of my data says. Now we just did another 2 quarts, so I should be good to just let this drip on here just like that. I'm going to go ahead and fill up my container the rest of the way here. Now this is going to take a little bit of time once I get this into position here perfectly, just like that. And I'm going to let it continue to drip, guys, for about another 5 or 10 minutes or until the drip slows down continuously, and then I'll bring you guys back in. So our transmission is still draining in the background, so I figured I would show you guys a drain plug. Now these drain plugs are pretty long, that's what they look like. They do have a magnetic end here to pick up any impurities, and they do have a square drive 3/8 that you're going to use to take it off. Now on the magnet end, if you guys look at this one, there is some stuff on there, and it's not too bad. That's kind of normal wear. You're always going to see something on there. You should not see any metal chunks. What I like to do is I will come here and I'll just run my fingers through it, grab most of the material, and just give it the smear test like this. If nothing feels chunky or rough and it's just kind of smooth, which is what it should be, just go ahead and take a blue rag or something, whatever you're going to be using, and make sure you clean it off and get it nice and clean just like this, because you don't want to reinsert it with all that material in there. The cleaner these are, the better they do a job at catching any impurities that are going to happen through wear and tear on the transmission. So just be mindful of that. Make sure you clean it off. Now these also have a drain plug washer here. Make sure you can get a new one for that and replace it as well. I'm going to be replacing mine, but it's going to be off camera. Alright guys, so I'm going to go ahead and plug up my transmission for the time being right now, because what I'm going to be doing is go ahead and do the rest of the service, which I'll kind of explain to you guys in the next clip. But for right now, what I'm going to do is go ahead and install my drain plug. And I haven't changed out my washer or anything yet, but we reinstall our drain plug. Now we're going to be reinstalling our 12 millimeter fill bolt. Now this one I'm just going to be leaving hand tight. Because we will be taking it off again. We also will be taking off our drain plug again, but I don't want the fluid to come out when I start it up. So we are going to make sure that we tighten that thing up. Now that we have all that done, what I'm going to do is go ahead and lower the car, and I'm going to explain to you guys how we're going to be doing this. Alright guys, so before we go ahead and do the next step, I just want to explain to you guys my reasoning and how I do my transmission flushes. Now, I'm not a fan of power flushes on transmissions. Those of you that have followed me on my channel and you've seen me do this before in other videos, I don't like using power machines. I like using drain and fills. They get out just the same amount of oil as the power flush would, but being less intrusive and not pushing pressure through your transmission to harm it or damage something possibly, or even move material around and cause a clog at some point. Now, what I like to do is drain them out. You guys just saw me drain it, and we're going to refill it with 5 quarts. Now, we're going to be using this Honda HCF2 fluid. It's made for CVT transmissions. That's what this Honda uses. It's a yellow and black bottle. Now, when we drained it, we got about 5 quarts out. I have my container right next to me here. We filled it up twice. It holds about 2 quarts, and I spilled it out. You guys saw that. And then the last amount that I got out was about another quart. So the all-wheel drives in this scenario take 5 quarts, and the two-wheel drives take 4 quarts. But do your own research before you attempt to do this. I'm working on an all-wheel drive, and I can verify that it's 5 quarts when you just do a drain on them, like we just did. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and fill my transmission up with 5 quarts. I'm going to let the engine run, and I'm going to let it get hot, guys, until the fan starts kicking on. And I'm also going to cycle through the gears like reverse, neutral, drive, low on it while the engine is running to try to get that new fluid to circulate around the transmission and kind of self-clean it. And once we do that, we're going to go ahead and drain the transmission again. Now, I'm going to include little quick snippets of this, but I'm not going to get into too much detail because many of you may just want to do a quick drain and fill. So I'm not going to cover it too much because it's essentially the same process that we just did. I'm going to fill it, run it, and I'm going to drain it again. I'm not going to cover the secondary drain as much either, just again, quick snippets. Because technically, if you just drained it out like we just did, you should be filling it up with the appropriate amount and then doing the checks for the level fill. However, I'm going a step extra on this one because of the way I like doing these flushes. Instead of using a power machine, I'm using the manual way of doing it by just circulating the fluid around. So with that said, next clip we're going to go ahead and fill up the transmission, and it's going to be the same for any of of this process basically, but on your last fill you're going to be more careful to make sure not to overflow it. So with that said, let's go ahead and get some fluid inside of this transmission. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to take my large transmission funnel. I cleaned this thing very well on the inside. I used a bunch of brake cleaner. There's no oil left over. You don't want to cross-contaminate fluid, so either use a new funnel or clean yours very well if you have a funnel that you've used before. Now what I'm going to do is just go ahead and I'm going to try to hold the camera, and we are going to insert this inside our transmission fill area just like that. Now that we have our funnel in there, guys, what we're going to do is go ahead and pour our transmission fluid in. This stuff is kind of like motor oil in a way, or mineral oil. It has the same color. I'm surprised Honda didn't put any coloring in it. So, this is what it looks like going in. So if yours comes out darker, just do know that you may be needing a service, or you should be flushing it out. I'm going to go ahead and put 5 quarts of this stuff in here, guys. I'm not going to film myself doing that. You guys get the gist of this. So this was 1 bottle. I have 4 more to go, and I'll bring you guys back in once it's filled up. Now that we filled up our transmission with our quarts that we needed, guys, we're going to go ahead and pull out our funnel and make sure you keep it clean. Don't get it too dirty. Especially with pulling it out, sometimes I'll find that the oil will drip out, so give it ample time to fully drip everything inside the transmission before you pull it out. And since we're going to be running the transmission, what I'm going to do is go ahead and just temporarily reinstall the plug. Now I will be taking it off again because, like I said, we're going to be running this thing, guys. I don't want anything to get in there. So I'm just going to go ahead and firmly push it back into place and make sure it is on there. So what I'm going to do next is go ahead and start up the car, and I'm going to cycle through the transmission gears, and I'm going to let this car warm up. It's pretty self-explanatory, guys. I will show you guys the last and final process, how to check it and cycle through everything. But for right now, I'm just giving you guys a quick snippet because this is not going to be our last fill. So I'm going to go in the car right now. We are going to start it up, and then we are just going to cycle it through all of our gears, and we are going to hold it into every gear for about 3 seconds. Alright guys, so our engine was running, we cycled through our gear, engine got pretty warm. I waited till the fans kicked on a couple times. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and get back up underneath it, and we're just going to do the same exact drain like we did previously. So I went ahead and included some snippets of me doing the drain, guys, really quickly there so you guys get an idea of how this all time-lapse together. So now that we have everything drained out, I already went ahead and I got 4 quarts inside of my transmission, and now we are going to be adding the 5th quart. Again, all-wheel drives, they take about 5 quarts, and that is what I drained out of this vehicle. So that is why we are putting back 5. And if we do have a little bit extra in there, we will be draining it out when it comes down to the leveling procedure. So I just wanted to make a point here, make sure that you fill it up with the correct level. Now this is going to be our last fill. Initially we did a fill and we drained it out again after we cycled the fluid, but this one we have to be more exact. So I measured exactly how much we took out the first time and the second time, and I got that exact amount in there. Technically, if you're doing a secondary drain, you could put about 4.5 to help save some fluid because you're not really driving the car, just idling on the lift. That fluid is moving around. However, I still put 5 quarts in it the initial run, and we're putting 5 quarts in it the secondary run. It's kind of all on how your preference is, but I put 5 and 5. I have more than enough fluid in order to do this the correct way, and that's why we are doing it this way. So now that we got our 5 quarts filled up, the way that they want you to do it is go ahead and cap off the top, which we're going to do here in a second, and they want you to get in the car, turn it on, cycle it from park, reverse, neutral, drive, sport, and lower, and going back up for 3 seconds in between. So what I mean by that is as you're going through the gears going down, you go from park to reverse, you wait 3 seconds, then you go to neutral, you wait 3 seconds, then you go to drive, and so on. And then going back up, same thing. If you're going from low, you're gonna wait 3 seconds, and then you're gonna go to sport, wait 3 seconds, and so on. It's going to be very difficult to film that in there because I don't like taking the cameras inside the customer vehicles. There might be, personal effects in there. So I'll probably position the camera outside the car and you guys will see me do it, and I'll kind of explain it as we go along. So what I'm going to do now is this funnel has been here for a while. It has drained out most of the fluid. We're going to go ahead and take this out. We have our 5 quarts in our transmission. We are going to take the cap and we are going to plug it up temporarily again, and I will take off this cap in the end and clean it off so it's a little bit more visible because it's kind of dirty. So we're going to go ahead and push our plug in there, and now what we're going to do is go inside the car and we're going to turn it on and go through our gear cycling process. Alright guys, so I'm in the car, so what we're going to do is go ahead and start her up, and I'm going to explain to you what I'm doing as I do it. It may be a little bit tedious, but I want you guys to get this concept. So currently we're in park and we're going to shift it into reverse. And my foot is on the brake and I'm going to wait 3 seconds. So let's see here. It's about 3 seconds according to my clock. Now we're going to go down to neutral. And we are going to wait 3 seconds as well. And it's 3 seconds. Now we're shifting to drive. And we are waiting again for another 3 seconds. Now we are in our sport mode. And again, same exact thing, guys. I know I'm being very repetitive, but I want you guys to understand. 3 3 seconds or more. So we went a little bit over in sport mode, now we're in low, and we are waiting our 3 seconds. And now we're going to go back up 3 gears, so we're going from low to sport, and we are going to wait 3 seconds on this one as well. It's very repetitive. It can kind of be annoying, but it's just how you got to do it. So now we went from sport to drive, and we are waiting our 3 seconds, which is right there. And now we are in neutral. We are just waiting our 3 seconds on this one as well, which we just did. Now we are in reverse again, waiting our 3 seconds. So that should be right about there. And now we are going into park, and we are going to wait our 3 seconds as well. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and shut off the engine, and we're going to lift the car and get up underneath it because we need to level out our transmission. Now before we go ahead and check our drain level amount and we set the transmission, I want to address one thing, that if you're doing this yourself at home, you may not know you're doing it wrong. When we do any sort of trans service here in the shop, guys, especially something that requires a bolt to be removed to set the level of the transmission, let's say it needs to be perfectly in line. If you guys notice, the car is always on the lift, and our lifts are always level at a shop. When they're installed, they're actually made so that the arms are perfectly even. And when we are setting the oil level in this transmission, guys, it does require the car to be perfectly on a flat, level surface. So the reason why I bring this up is because a lot of you may be doing this in your driveway. It may have a slant, or it may not be perfectly level, or you may have the car on those drive-on ramps or blocks, or it may even be on a jack stand. And if you're opening that level check screw and the car is at a slight angle like this because you have it on ramps, you're going to be setting the level incorrectly. It may be overfilled or underfilled. It just really varies on how you're doing it. So when I'm checking the level of this thing, the car is exactly level on the lift where it should be. It's actually more perfectly level than anywhere that it could be, even let's say on a road surface, because the lift installed, the way they work is the arms have to be level in order to raise up the car correctly. And to get it even more perfect and more level, you can lower it on the locks, and that is a true flat surface. So this thing right now is we're going to check the oil level on it. We're going to level it out, but know that everything is perfectly leveled out. Make sure you do the same. However you got to do that. Typically it would mean you got to get underneath there without the car being on jack, or you got to put all 4 wheels on ramps or jack stands, or however you're going to do it. Just make sure the car is perfectly flat and level. Now we got our car up in the air and we got our drain pan underneath. We are going to come and we're going to release our 12mm bolt here by unscrewing it. Now I already went ahead and I changed the crush washer on it. We haven't torqued this down or anything yet, so just make sure you replace that. And we're going to go ahead and take it off. And this is what we're looking for: gradual oil coming out. So this one right now, we can see it's kind of bubbling right there. That is exactly where you want it to be. This indicates that it's properly filled. Now once you reach that state, you're going to go ahead and plug in your bolt and go ahead and screw it in. Now I got a bunch of oil all over my hand, so I'm going to go ahead and clean that out. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and torque that on there. Again, make sure you have your crush washer replaced, guys, because you're not really servicing this often. It's always a good idea to get a new drain crush washer and this check bolt crush washer. So I'm going to go ahead and get that tightened up, and then we're going to lower the car back down, and I'll show you guys the next step. So we went ahead and we tightened our check bolt, and I know I said we were going to lower the car, but I also want to stress this out too, guys. Make sure you clean off your areas underneath here, your oil pan, right up where that check bolt is. Just get a good helping of brake cleaner all over the place. Make sure everything is nice and oil free, because you definitely don't want to assume that you may have a leak down here. Now that we cleaned up our area and everything is looking great, I'm going to go ahead and come in here and remove my light, because I put a light here so you guys can see it a little bit better. And what we're going to do is reinstall our shield, our famous great shield here. Now these go on a certain way, so make sure that the indented portion is facing upward towards the engine. It's pretty simple. And then what we're gonna do here is go ahead and line it up on all of our little lock tabs and push it into place. And even though it can be a little bit repetitive, guys, I'm not really gonna show it, but reinstall all your hardware on your tray here and get that all bolted up, and then go ahead and lower the car. So now that we got our lower pan installed, guys, I'm going to come back up in here and I'm going to remove our plug. And what I'm going to do is take my rag and I'm just going to clean up really quickly, make a quick pass on the little info tab in the front. Now, if you guys noticed earlier in the video, when I pulled this out, it was pretty dirty, but check this out. Just oily rag with the transmission oil that I wiped off from my gloves. Just clean that up a little bit there and make it look nice. And also this rag does have a little bit of oil in it. I'm going to clean up my little plug area here. You guys can see it lubricates it a little bit. It'll help it seal just a tiny bit better. And according to Honda directions, guys, they want you to install this with the little hook facing down, so the end of it should be facing down. And who am I to question them? I'm going to go ahead and just set it in there that way, and our plug is set up in there. Now that you have that put on there, guys, all you really have to do is take the car out for a nice and thorough test drive. Make sure everything is shifting correctly, which it should, because we did level it off correctly and everything is done by the book. So this thing right now, I'm going to go out on the road. It should be shifting perfectly. If everything is fine from that point on, she is ready to go back to the customer, and that pretty much concludes how to do a CVT fluid flush on a 2019 CRV. Alright guys, so we are all said and done. That's how you do a CVT transmission service on a 2019 Honda CRV. Now these do have a filter depending on the model, and our car has low miles, so I didn't want to replace the filter just yet. This customer is wanting to service this vehicle every 20-30,000 miles or so. So I told him, do the filter replacement when the car reaches 60,000 miles on the next transmission service, and then let that filter stay in there until he gets closer to the 100,000 mile marker, because his idea and plan is to do this trans service every 20-30,000 miles or so. So that way he doesn't incur a lot of extra labor charges in replacing the filter all the time, because this fluid doesn't really get dirty or anything of that nature. I'm telling him to only replace the filter twice on it, which is going to be probably around 60, and again at around 120 if he's still doing the services on there. That's just kind of my approach on there with this vehicle. It's quite simple and easy, guys. You guys have seen it done here. You don't have to flush it out twice like we did, but I like getting all of the fluid out of there. That's why I do it twice. If you want, you can do it one time. It's completely your preference. So with that said, guys, hopefully this video helps you guys out. Please comment, like, and subscribe, because it definitely helps the channel grow. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.